Brian, Montreal Washington has been obviously impressive in camp. 3 catches for 60 yards yesterday. I'm wondering, what do you think of his game yesterday, and what more do you guys want to see out of him to be able to make the roster?
I thought he did some good things. Had good run after catch, which he's had in camp. You know, it's one of those deals in camp where they say, yeah, he was tagged down. Was he tagged down? Was he? You know, he had a big play on that play on the sideline to the right. You know, I'd say he'd be the first one to say he could have finished a couple plays down there in the fringe on 3rd down, which would have helped us, you know, hopefully generate some scoring points, touchdowns instead of field goals. Conscientious guy that's competing. He's made some plays and still things to improve on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Renan.
Hey, Brian, what's going on?
Jordan?
I'm wondering what you saw when you went back and you looked at your quarterbacks yesterday. Obviously, from first glance, it seemed like they were impressive. I'm wondering what you thought.
Yeah, I think that starts with the offensive line, giving them good protection. But all 4 of them did a nice job in the pocket, kept their eyes downfield, and made plays when they could make them. Had that one where we bounced back, the one where they were called for defensive offsides. We threw it to the post safety there. And then Jameis came back and kind of reloaded and drove down and hit it. Russell was efficient. Tommy was good, efficient, made good decisions. So I thought all 4 of those players, albeit preseason game where you're not seeing many things, did their jobs and did them at a fairly high level.
And then turning the page real quick, how do you expect to approach this week with the joint practices with the Jets? And maybe do you expect Malik to likely participate in this?
Yeah, we'll see.
What's the smirk for?
We'll see. I'm not going to get into injuries or who didn't play or right now. So we'll practice against them on Tuesday, and everybody that can practice will practice, and those that can't won't.
And what about the approach? Like, what are you trying to get at it? But what do you look for when you do these joint practices? Well,
it's good to go against different schemes, different players, matchups. As long as you practice the right way. AG and I have a really good relationship. We've talked about it a number of times of our scheduling and what we're looking to get out of it, which is good competitive work against different teams that do different things. So, and have different matchups, and you're able to look at their team, they're able to look at us. You've got a lot of players out there that are competing for roster spots. So, I think it serves multiple roles.
Brian Dunleavy.
Hey, Brian.
Ryan?
Turbo converted a 3rd and 8, a 3rd and 9, a 3rd and 12, and a 2nd and 10 into first downs. Obviously, you have 3 running backs who are already pretty set on your roster. But what have you seen from him, and what does that kind of explosiveness do when a guy's trying to make the roster and he's turning 3rd and longs into first downs?
Yeah, it's a competitive, roster spots that are out there. It's not just competing against running backs; it's competing against other positions that are fighting for roster spots. Special teams wise, special teams will be important. You have a starting running back. We have a starting running back. We have a couple other running backs that we think are going to help us, and then Turbo is firmly in that mix based on his performance. But special teams will be very important for him, and the roles that he can help us with in those areas relative to making the roster and going to a game. But he got player of the game on offense for us this game, and he did a lot of good things for us, and we'll keep on working with him.
Are you aware that you set the social media ablaze by dropping a 6-7 that none of us you were talking to even knew what you were talking about?
Yeah, I didn't think you guys would know.
We didn't.
Oh.
No, we didn't. We needed social media to tell us. Is that something you picked up from Dart or from your kids?
My kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dan Duggan.
Hey, Brian. Nick Jones was out there with the 1. Just curious why you put him in that spot and what you see from him.
Drew wasn't able to go, so he went in. Competed, did some good things, some things to clean up just like everybody, but he was the next guy up when Drew came out.
Anything serious with Drew?
No, just couldn't finish. So falls in line with all the other injured guys right now.
All right, and then speaking of injured guys, with Andrew Thomas, any chance he gets activated this week?
We'll just take it day by day with him and keep on improving him. So when he can do more, he'll do more, and whatever it is, that's when it'll be.
Charlotte Carroll.
Hey, Brian. How's it going?
Hey, Charlotte.
You brought up the offensive line. What did you see from Marcus Bowe and what he was able to do yesterday?
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. Protected well, is athletic. Knew all the plays, the assignments that he had. He's had a good camp up to this point. We've played him on both sides, and he's done a nice job since he's been here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Paul Schwartz.
Hey, Brian.
Paul?
Hey, you had your offense coordinator, play caller on the sideline for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just a preseason thing, or is that to kind of see the feel and how that works down there?
Yeah, it's something we talked about in the offseason. I think it went well. I think there was good communication. We'll see what we do this week. It's what these preseason games are for. But operationally wise, I was pleased with how things went.
Is you've done both, right? I'm sure in your career. You've
I
been
have.
up, you've been down. What do you prefer? I mean, obviously, when you're doing it as a head coach, you got to be on the sideline. But as a coordinator, what works best in your mind?
I think it's individual preference. I think there's probably pros and cons for each spot. Calling it upstairs, calling it downstairs would be a good question for Mike. There's different things. You're less emotional when you're upstairs. It's a more calm environment. Can maybe see part of the field a little bit better. Downstairs, there's, I'd say better conversations, a lot of times easier conversations when you're right there around the quarterbacks, able to communicate with the coaches. So this is something that we wanted to try for this game. We'll sit down and, I thought it went well. I'll talk to Mike about, plans going forward for the next game and then the third game, and then, ultimately we'll make, the decision that we feel best about for the opener.
One other follow-up to that. So if Mike is on the field, right, he's got to have someone upstairs who's his eyes upstairs, right? So who
we have a number of guys. We have a big staff, so there's a number of guys that are upstairs. And again, I thought the communication really in all three phases was good. The information, and again, that's what these games are for. We haven't coached in however long it is, and we have new people on the staff, and that's what part of these games are for too, is so that we can get aligned and make sure our communication process is right for our players.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll take two more. Evan Barnes.
Hey, Brian.
Evan.
Jackson was talking yesterday about how some of the guys were hoping that he would slide on that 19-yard run, and I'm curious.
You said, I'm sorry, Jackson?
Jackson.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So my question is just kind of how are you, when you go back and look at that play, how are you guys, reminding him or reinforcing him, hey, I want to slide instead of taking a dive instead to avoid those hits?
I thought it was a good play.
That's it? Just a good play?
Yeah, it was a good play. 20-yard gain. He's out there with the ball in his hand. There's times that call for you to slide, and maybe there's other times that aren't. Obviously, we want to minimize the hits for our quarterbacks, but there's a competitive nature to that position as well. And he's going to learn as he goes. We've had a lot of guys that can run with the ball. We want to take as few hits as we can, and sometimes there's plays that you're not going to be able to get down. You're just going to have to do a good job of getting your pads low and protecting yourself. But he's been a good runner in college. We'll do a good job with, working out the kinks of him carrying the ball. But I have confidence in, his instincts and what he sees out there and when he needs to do it. And, we'll try to minimize as many hits as he can, but he's a competitor. And I like that about him.
He said that you said that about him, so I was just curious to make sure.
Yeah.
And then to follow up, you mentioned obviously your relationship with Glenn over at the Jets. I'm curious, when you guys discuss these joint practices, just kind of how far back does that relationship go where you guys could easily figure that out smoothly?
AG's in mine?
Yeah.
I'd say a number of years. Since he was a DB coach back at the Saints, but obviously he was a player when I first started in this league. So I've known AG for a long time. Got a lot of respect for him as a man and as a coach. Easy to work with. We've communicated a bunch throughout the years. Obviously the last couple of years at Detroit when he was the defensive coordinator, and we've gone through situations of how we're going to practice, where we want the tempo to be, the periods. Got a lot of respect for him, and the communication process has been good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Last one, Art Stapleton.
Hey, Dabes, what's going on?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Good. Just off of the AG thing, when the joint practices come, I know you said in the past, it really depends on your relationship with the other coach, but how calculated are you guys? Does he say, look, we want some work, with our DBs, for example, and you said, well, we want to see, this kind of packages. Do you guys get to that point where you pick the drills, or is that more of a Tuesday into Wednesday thing? How do you set the whole thing up?
Yeah, no, we have an outline of how we're going to practice in terms of the periods, when we're going to be separate, when we're going to be together. Usually there's some type of one-on-one work, and then, when I'll be on the Giants offensive field, he'll be on the Jets offensive field, and, what we talked about is when he's on that field and I'm on that field, you're the head coach of that field, if you will. Want to avoid, we want to practice the right way, get work out of it. Try to keep the, being on the ground and cheap shots and all that other stuff out of it. It's like we're practicing against one another on our own teams, but get work out of it against different skill sets, different schemes. The drills we do are, whether it's a 7-on-7 or a team run, whatever it may be, red zone, third down, we talk about those, almost prior to leaving in June. And then kind of our assistants go back and forth on some things. We readdress them. We've talked. We've probably communicated 4 times today already. They had a late night getting back from Green Bay, but it's good to work with. It's good to work with another team if you can get proper stuff out of it.
I just have one more. I wanted to ask you about Thomas Fedone early yesterday when he had the false start. It looked like you got a. I don't know if he was pulled off because he had the penalty. I know you've been trying to watch for those. But for a young player who's missed some time in camp to come back into the game and, play a role and was still engaged late, made a couple really good catches. Just curious for him, what did yesterday kind of represent for him and his growth process? Yeah,
it was good to see. He had that 2-point conversion. Or Jameis threw it. It might have been to Gunner, but Fedone stepped up and made a good catch. And then, that big fourth and, mid-range area where Tommy kind of held it, and then he threw it up and he made a high-point catch. And then in a 4-minute series, he had one. So, these plays are all critical for young players to show what they can do and how they handle different situations, their technique. Are they getting movement in the running game? In this case, at tight end, are they creating separation, catching the ball, be where they're supposed to be? Can we count on them in critical situations? That's why these preseason games are so valuable, for everybody.